Shalom everybody, it's Kalayla Kelly, your Irish Jew, and tonight I want to report on the Palestine Action group. It's a group that I keep hearing about, and it's, well, about Palestine and taking action. So I'm going to have a look at a story here on msn.com.au. Pro-Palestinian protesters have pledged to continue in the face of a promised crackdown on their rallies while repeating a controversial chant calling for Israeli forces to be destroyed. I don't think they were calling for Israeli forces to be destroyed. I think they are literally saying death, death to the IDF. So they are actually calling for death, violence. So it's a chant that is hate rhetoric, but it's also a call to violence against a specific group of people. So it's certainly more than just saying, be destroyed. It's literally saying, kill them, death, death to these people. They're undeterred by the Victorian government's promises to bring in stronger measures to clamp down on the weekly protests. Hundreds again turned out in force on Sunday to march through a chilly Melbourne city centre. I was out on the weekend as well on Sunday, and I was walking past some beautiful fountains in my city, and there was a whole group of, I don't know if they were Palestine Action, but they were pro-Palestinian, and they were selling kafirs, like it was a commercial operation. It was really interesting to see. There were red kafirs and black kafirs, and they had the stalls. So someone is clearly merching this, right? It's a merchandise, commercialized merch business, really, making money. What disturbed me the most was a picture in a kind of Banksy style, with the color cutouts, a Banksy style picture where there was an IDF soldier and he had a rifle pointing exactly, specifically in the face of like a little child, a little toddler who was just innocently standing there, because we know that Palestine is just full of children, only children, toddlers usually, and the IDF are just always looking for children to kill because Jews hate children. That's the rhetoric, that's the anti-Semitism and blood libel of this mentality. And it was so shocking and grotesque and disturbing to see. And I'm sure my detractors would say, well, killing children is grotesque and disturbing to see, Kalila. And you're like, yeah, it is. Again, that's why war is shit and terrible, and Hamas shouldn't start wars. And in fact, Palestine shouldn't start wars that they don't want to lose. You can't start a war with your neighbor and then when your neighbor wins, go, oh my God, they're killing us, genocide, it's not fair, stop, ceasefire. But that's exactly what the Palestinian narrative does and has been doing for the last 80 odd years. It is completely supremacist in its Islamist ideology and completely anti-Semitic. It will not tolerate any Jews left, right, or center. That's why they will not accept peace with Israel. It doesn't matter how much land you give. It's not about the land. It's about the religion. It's about the religious ideology of no Jews are allowed here, just Muslims. Christians, maybe, if they pay a jizya. Definitely no Muslims. Oh, sorry, no Muslims, no Jews. Here is a woman. Here she is. Free Palestine, ceasefire now. I would ask this woman, what do you mean free Palestine? Free it from Hamas? Free it from the Jews? Free Palestine, what does that actually mean? Free it of Jews? Free the land of Jews so there's not a single Jew in the region? Well, that's literally ethnic cleansing, something that you guys supposedly hate. So it would be a bit hypocritical if you were calling for that. And ceasefire now, why would you have a ceasefire with Hamas? Why would you negotiate with them? I mean, to get the hostages back that they still have. They still have hostages. How can there be a ceasefire if Hamas haven't returned the hostages? Return the hostages, lay down your arms, war's over. Children don't die. All those children that you supposedly care about so much, but that you never build bomb shelters for, and you never protect, and you always seem to be happy to use as human shields. Again, all those children, those martyrs, or should I say, because this is a religious war, remember, it's not about the land, it's about the religion. It's about the Islamist supremacy of Muslims having a caliphate in the region, and no Jews are allowed as part of that ideology. That's all it is. It's not about the land. Let's try and keep up, guys. Come on, Palestinian Action, guys. Keep up. We won't stop rally MC Hajar Riyad said. They just won't stop. They just won't stop. And the government in Australia is considering finally to ban people wearing face coverings during demonstrations, and I think that's absolutely fair. Why are you hiding your face? Are you ashamed of your message? Are you worried that you're going to get caught? Why would you be worried? You should be proud of your message. You should be proud of your ideology and what you stand for. Why would you hide your face? Now, some of you might say, well, why were you hiding your face last week? Because I had a cold sore and it's gross. You don't want to look at it. And I wasn't protesting. I'm just doing a little video. Our government is trying to criminalise each and every one of us, she said. Well, Miss Riyad, if you call for the death of people and you're a prognosticated terrorist sympathetic organisation, you tend to get banned by liberal democracies. We don't really like terrorism that much. So again, this is a thing you guys don't seem to understand, pro-Palestinians, but terrorism ain't great. That's why we ban it. That's why you guys are being banned, because you're pro-terrorism, basically. Free Palestine Melbourne protests are demanding Australia impose sanctions on Israel due to its actions in Gaza. What actions? Like having a war, like trying to get its hostages back that Hamas stole. Its actions in Gaza, what, like feeding its enemy? Again, tell me what war and what group of people have ever fed their enemy when they're fighting. You never answer that question, pro-Palestinian nicks, because you can't answer it because it's bullshit. And even in your holy wars, tell me when an Islamic army has gone out of its way to feed the very people it's trying to subjugate and destroy. If you can find me sources of that happening in your history, great, let's talk about it. Participants have come under fire for the rallying cry deaf to the IDF. Yeah. Again, that's hate speech. You're claiming to be victims, and yet you are using a supremacist, Islamist, fascist statement that would have fit in quite well in Nazi Germany and Nazi Europe. One protester displayed a sign that read, "Deaf to the IDF, not just a chant but a prayer." I mean, these people are sick. And worst of all than being mentally ill, they are hypocrites. You cannot claim that you care about children and then use children as human shields. You cannot claim to hate death and want a ceasefire and then literally say we pray for the death of our enemies. They don't add up. You can't want to have a ceasefire in peace, but at the same time be like, yeah, and then let's just kill all the Jews. Like, the two things don't work together. This is so basic, this logic, this morality, and yet they don't get it because they are so freaking stupid. And it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of a beautiful Sunday. I mean, the sun is shining. It's winter. Go outside and enjoy yourselves, right? You will not win this fight. You will not defeat Israel. You will not defeat this third temple energy that Yishai Fleischer talks about. It's a fantastic message. Israel isn't going anywhere. It's just getting stronger. And you guys keep making it stronger with your anti-Semitism and your stupidity and your inability to look past your own hate. Again, many countries in the Middle East are able to look past their hatred. They've moved on from that narrative and they want to build alliances with Israel, and they will. And I think there will be a renaissance in the Middle East led by certain countries who have far-sightedness. And countries like Australia or Europe, where they are attacking Jews and where anti-Semitism is increasing, those countries go downhill. That's what happens historically every time. Again, this is not me making this shit up because I'm pro-Israel or Jewish. It's because it's what happens historically. Every time you hate Jews, you go down. You hate Jews, you lose. Maybe that should be the narrative. A recent spate of attacks on Melbourne's Jewish community, including the firebombing of an East Melbourne synagogue with children inside. What's that? What's that, hypocrites? I thought you hated killing children. I thought that only Jews killed children, and yet here you are firebombing a synagogue trying to kill children inside. Shame on you. And then the storming of an Israeli restaurant prompted the government to set up a task force to target hate crimes. A bit late for that. This has been brewing for many, many years. Qatari money, Iranian money, proxy money coming into the universities, radicalizing people who then go out with their placards on Sundays and act like it's completely normal to shout, "Deaf, deaf to the IDF," like a fucking, like some Hitler Youth march. What the hell? What the... West, you need to get your head checked. Here they are. Defend humanity, defund Israel. These people, it's just the stupidity. And then organisers, here they are, here they are, here they are. They have the hide, the gall to say, we're not anti-Semitic. We love our Jewish brothers and sisters. We just don't like Israel, the land of the Jews. You see, it was really interesting. I was talking to someone on the weekend and he was asking me about Jews and why Jews are attacked and why people hate Jews and what's going on there. And I said, I think genuinely because it's jealousy, because Jewish communities and the Jewish diaspora historically have always been very successful because they've had to find different ways of making money and succeeding in societies that were generally hostile. They weren't allowed to own land, for example, which was one of the ways you become wealthy, right, is through real estate. But Jews were historically not allowed to own land or to partake in normal businesses like the non-Jews around them. And so they had to find niche areas where they could make money, usually areas, for example, like tax collection, which people hated. And the kings in France and England used to use the Jews to be tax collectors. So when people got shitty about all the taxes, they would just point and say, look at that Jew getting the money for the king. And the king would be happily safe over here, minding his own business. It was quite nefarious, quite smart, really. But that's what they used to do in European nations. And similarly, across the Middle East and other countries, Jews weren't allowed to be full citizens. So they had to really turn inward as a community and look after each other and get money, because money is power, money is freedom. And when you are treated as second-class humans, as Jews have historically throughout most of the world, right? You have to find different ways to survive and become tough, and you don't have time for self-pity. The problem, I think, with the Palestinian movement is it's so self-pitying. It's part of this superior-inferior dialectic or dichotomy in many Islamist circles. They act so superior and robust and thumping their chest because we're Muslims. But at the same time, they're deeply insecure by Jews and Christians. Not Christians so much, whom they look at as weak and pathetic, but they're really irritated by Jews because Jews, there aren't many of us, and yet we're still fucking here, excuse my French, and we're still surviving and thriving and doing well. And that, it just boggles the mind. It's like, how can we be the chosen people? How can we be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, favorite people when the Jews are still hanging around? And we hate the Jews, right? So why are the Jews successful? It doesn't add up. So they get shitty. Yeah, so now they're trying to, they're trying to figure out how to de-radicalize parts of the West, which are making things even more unsafe for Jews across the nations. And again, as a Jew, when I look at this, I walked through that encampment, really, which is what it is, that commercialized drama encampment in the city. And it's like, I can pass as a whitey, because I am, overall. I have a bit of Jewish ethnicity in me, but I can pass as a Christian woman or as I can walk through that and not be harmed. But if I was with a man and he was wearing a yarmulke, or if I was noticeably Jewish walking around with a Star of David through that, it would be dangerous. And there are parts of the city that I would never go as a Jew, openly as a Jew. It's the first thing you do is you learn to hide who you are. That's just the reality. And the more this kind of stupidity grows in the West, in places like Australia or the UK or wherever else these Palestine Action Group assholes are proliferating, you know that that's a sign of societal breakdown. And the irony is that the more unsafe you make it for Jews across the West or across the Middle East, the more those Jews will then go to Israel, make aliyah. They will go up to the land of Israel. They will travel to the land of Israel and seek citizenship there, and then just make Israel even stronger, right? With all of the numbers of immigrants coming in, and with all of their intelligence and money and intellect and manpower. So the irony is, the more you make it unsafe for Jews in diaspora, the more they will cleave to Israel, and Israel will ironically become stronger. And then that whole saga of get rid of Israel and we're victims and it's not fair and blah, 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 save Palestine, that will become even less likely. Isn't it interesting how things work out? Mazel tov, Am Yisrael Chai. Have a great night. Bye.